Okay, so these are our next notes in zoology. This is our next group of invertebrates. They're going to be a little bit more complex. If you remember sponges, their complexity of body organization was cells. And with these, you're going to see a little bit more complexity, a few more structures that sponges didn't have. Okay, and let's go ahead and start on that. So this is the phylum Cnidaria. This includes things like jellyfish, could be corals, could be box jellies. And if you've ever thought about each one of these, they have some similarities, and you'll see down below what some of those similarities are. Okay, and these organisms really consist of two cell layers surrounding a jelly-like substance, and that jelly-like substance is called mesoglia. I'm going to draw you a picture here. Mesoglia. That's this jelly-like substance. And really, let me just draw I'm going to draw a jellyfish here. Okay. And then it has like, let's just go. Okay. So it has a cell layer here. It has a cell layer inside. And then it has inside here, this is your mesoglia. Okay. And this is just one body form. This is called a medusa, but other body forms are very similar. It has a mouth in here. This is like your body cavity where the food is absorbed once it's taken in. Okay. One of the main features of this phylum is it has stinging cells, and they're also known as nematocysts. And these nematocysts they're like kind of like barbs on a hook. If you've ever seen a fishing hook, if you've ever looked at it closely, it has like a little barb on it, a little barb. Well, these do as well. So if we were going to draw a tentacle, a little bigger one, maybe I could draw a little bigger, but and inside of these are these little barbs, and when they're touched, these things will then shoot out, and they kind of got like arrows. They're kind of like an arrow, and they'll stick into something and allow that cnidarian to grab it and perhaps pull it into its mouth and then eat it. Okay, and we're going to be looking more at these a little closer as we go through this phylum. But they have those nematocysts, and they're found in the tentacles. Okay, these organisms are also, here's another really biology term, they're coleantherates, and what that means, they have a single internal cavity serving for digestion and excretion. Okay? And so right here, this is your coleanthera. This is that body cavity right there, and they use that, so food goes into this body cavity, it's absorbed, and then whatever waste is given off by these cells, it is then given off here, and then food comes in, and then waste goes out. It has a mouth right here, so food and waste go in at the same place. Okay. So that's that, and these organisms also have tentacles. Okay, so some of these jellyfish have really long ones, not so long, but they can also have another body form. It's called a polyp, and it kind of looks like, has like a stalk, and then the tentacles go up like this, okay, like an anemone or something like that, okay, or something with a coral. And in here, with these ones, you have this, here's the mouth right here, and it has a body cavity in here, and so on. Okay, so we'll talk about these body forms in a minute, but both have tentacles. Some of these are shorter, some of these are longer, whatever, but that's a really important feature of this organism, because on those tentacles they have those nematocysts. Okay? Very unique for that organism. And then there's four main groups that make up this phylum, and they are Scyphozoa, Anthozoa, Cubozoa, and Hydrozoa. The Scyphozoa, they're also called true jellies, and these are the jellyfish that you see. Okay? And when you're walking around on the beach and you see that, clear substance, those moon jelly things, those are Scyphozoa. That's the group they're found in. But then you have corals and anemones. Those are called Anthozoa. These guys build reefs and so on. So, and they're very different. This would be the polyp form we're going to talk about, and so these would be mainly Medusa form. We'll talk about what that means in a minute. And then these would be polyp forms. Okay? And then there's just corals and anemones. And then you have Cubozoa. These are the box jellies, and these would also be some Medusa form. Okay? And then we have hydras or Hydrozoa, and these are, you think of Portuguese man of war, you might actually thought they would fit into the Scyphozoa, but they do not. They fit into this Hydrozoa, and these are actually more polyp-like for much of their life. Okay, so those are the four main groups. And what's really interesting about these guys is they have this alternating lifestyle. So they live as a polyp, and then they produce a medusa, and then that medusa then produces a polyp. Okay, so they just go polyp, medusa, medusa, polyp, polyp, medusa, medusa, polyp. They just keep going in that direction. And the reproduction type also occurs as well. So when you're going from a polyp to a medusa, this is asexual. And then when you're going from a medusa to a polyp back, that's sexual reproduction. So a polyp becomes a medusa by doing asexual reproduction, and then a medusa becomes back to a polyp by doing sexual reproduction. So this would be gametes, and this would be budding, something very similar for this organism. And this is a really important understanding of these guys. And the medusa is your free-swimming organism, so it's the one that kind of looks like a jellyfish. And again, the tentacles can be different lengths. I'm just drawing shorter ones. So this would be your jellyfish that you would see in the water. That's a medusa. And then the polyp form would be this form right here, the mouth, tentacles, like an anemone, like that. And that's your polyp. And all of these organisms, Scyphozoa, Anthozoa, Cubozoa, Hydra, they all kind of go through this life cycle. Some are medusa much more longer than polyps, so we might not think they're polyps. And some may live a large portion of their life as a medusa. Okay, and so that's kind of our Cnidarians. And hopefully you kind of get the main ideas from this. The main body plan is tentacles attached to a body. Sometimes the mouth is up, and that would be the polyp, so we'd say mouth up. And then the medusa is mouth down, and it's swimming through the water. And then and you think of tentacles as well, they would be facing up, and then for medusa, tentacles would be facing down. Okay, and then these guys are actually sexual reproduction, and then these guys are asexual reproduction. Okay, and this is kind of just an introduction to these guys. We're going to be doing more notes in these, and not maybe notes, but we might look at the specific groups, and you guys are going to do a lookup, or you did do a lookup yesterday, and you're going to share that with each other so that you can have some more information on those. These guys are very simple organisms, and I didn't mention before also, they have radial symmetry. So if you laid one down, you'd see it has a mouth in the middle, and then working off of that are like the tentacles and such. Okay, so this guy would be have radial symmetry. Not that many organisms actually. Think there'd be more. You have like sea stars that have it, and so on. But most do not have radial. Most have either bilateral or they're asymmetrical. So that's kind of the introduction. Cnidarians are jellyfish, corals, box jellies. They have two cell layers surrounding mesoglia. They have a stinging cell, which is really one of their most prominent features. It really defines who they are. And They're also coleantherates, which means they have a body cavity, and that body cavity has an opening, and that opening takes in food and gets rid of waste. And 4 main groups: Scyphozoa, Anthozoa, Cubozoa, Hydrozoa. And finally, alternating life cycle. And just remember, polyps are sessile. They don't move very much. They can move, but they don't move as a general way of life, but they move if they have to. But medusa are constantly swimming, and what's also kind of, I want to add this, these guys are plankton, because they can swim, but not enough to really get around and live their whole life, so they depend on the ocean currents to carry them around. And that's kind of our notes. Make sure you note these, add them to your notebook, or annotate these and add them to your notebook. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you on Friday.